The sea is really not a silent world, if you know how to tune in on it. With an instrument called a hydrophone, an underwater microphone, you can listen to the sounds made by sea life. In fact, to anything that goes on in the ocean. I was testing a very special set of highly sensitive hydrophones, which I had rigged up as a unit. To my underwater phones, a whale sounded like blasts on a tuba. A friendly seal sounded like a dog barking. A playful school of porpoises reminded me of schoolgirls chattering. And this school of fish sounded like galloping horses. I was making recordings of these sounds. Later, scientists at Marine Land of the Pacific would play them back at different speeds and analyze them to help solve some of the mysteries of the sea. I didn't know that before the day was over, I'd be using my hydrophones not to study common marine life, but I'd be using them to try to solve one of the strangest and most dangerous mysteries that I've ever encountered in the ocean. The slate said urgent, up. A message had come from my friend Ernesto Santilla, a marine specialist asking me to fly immediately to Punta Serena on the coast of Baja California and to bring all my underwater equipment. Several hours later, we were over Bahia Blanca on the coast of Baja California. As we came in for a landing, I kept an eye out for anything unusual. I didn't see anything. We landed in the bay and taxied toward Punta Serena. Ernesto had left a truck and instructions for me in town. An hour later, I drove up the beach into his research camp. Tanks, hydrophones, and all.
Hello, Mike. I'm glad you came.
Ernesto, nice to see you again.
Mike, did you see anything from the sky on your way in?
Well, I saw a lot of things. I saw some whales near the bay.
No. You saw nothing else unusual?
No, nothing.
Were you out toward the area of the channel, near the islands?
No? What's wrong?
Come with me. I want to show you something. I'd like you to look at that net.
Got a hole in it. What's so unusual about that?
This man, Julio, is prepared to swear that this hole was made by something as if from another world. A sea monster.
Sea monster?
That's right, a sea monster. He describes it as being so powerful that it makes the whales leap from the waters in fear.
Well, a killer whale will do that too, you know.
He says it set up an underwater turbulence that made the bell buoy in the channel ring as if the devil himself had hold of its tongue.
You actually get a look at this sea monster?
Sí, señor.
He describes it as having long wild hair and eyes that burn. No, these are reliable men. They have been professional fishermen for 20 years. I know them both. They are very, very certain of their story.
You see it too?
Hernando had seen it the day before, at exactly the same place, at exactly the same time of day, 4:30. So they think it may come into that area at that time to feed. They differ in one way. Hernando saw no streaming hair. He describes it as being shining and circular, like a flying saucer.
But they only got a quick glimpse of it, huh?
Yes.
These ends look like they've been cut.
Yes, Mike. If it were not for this net, believe me, I too would discount the story. Do you know how much impact would be needed by whatever hit that net to snap those cords that way? More force and strength than any water creature that has lived for at least 1,000,000 years.
You got the time? It's not 4:30 yet. Let's get that plane and go up and take a look, huh?
I went up again in the amphibian for some aerial reconnaissance. We were over the bay again, and this time I had an idea where to look, in the area of the channel. But I still didn't know what I was looking for. Far below us, we could see many whales swimming lazily near the surface. We came down close to the water to get a good look at them. Nothing seemed unusual. All of a sudden, a huge whale leaped out of the water as if terrified. Then another. And another. The whole herd was running and leaping in panic. We couldn't see what was causing it all below the surface. But there was something. I couldn't doubt that anymore. We went back to the camp to study the problem. We considered every possible angle. We studied charts, calculated currents, and consulted many of Ernesto's books. We knew that many supposedly extinct sea creatures had been discovered alive in recent years. Still, I couldn't accept the idea that any sea monster could create such a turbulence, panic a herd of whales, or push right through a heavy-duty net. Ernesto couldn't accept it either. But what other explanation was there? I decided that there was only one thing to do: collect data on it, right there in the water as it passed. We might be able to get a look at it, or even photograph it. And with my hydrophones, we could at least record sound data on it. Julio agreed to be our guide. To solve this mystery of the sea, we were ready to risk our equipment, and perhaps our lives. We got to the channel early the next morning. That gave us many hours to prepare, but we didn't know what we were preparing for. As we loaded the dinghy, I realized how wise Ernesto was when he asked me to bring all my equipment. My experimental hydrophones would now be our underwater ears. We agreed to place them at specific angles and depths in relation to each other. Each phone had its own miniature transmitter, broadcasting to the receivers, meters, and tape recorders aboard the Teresa. By comparing the sounds and intensities and making some calculations, we could chart the course, the depth, and speed, perhaps even the size, of anything that passed through the channel. Julio rode me around in the dinghy as one by one I carefully set out the units of our underwater sound network. When I had adjusted the floats and cables, I made a final check on the connections, the directions, and distances. When I returned to the boat, Ernesto was already testing the system and was ready to work the controls.
How's it working?
Listen.
Yeah, that's fine.
You are not going into the water again, Mike.
Yeah. I just changed my tanks. These are full ones.
The time is now too close. It will be too dangerous until we know what we are dealing with.
Well, that's why I want to get a good look at it. I can see much better down below.
The boat is the safest place for all of us, Mike. I will not consent.
You brought me down here because I'm supposed to know my job. Let me do it, huh? My way.
Yeah.
As I swam down to what I hoped would be a safe spot, I began to feel that Ernesto was right. It would be dangerous. But nothing could take the place of a face-to-face look. And whatever it was bound to be something that I'd never seen before. Maybe something no man had ever seen before. I found a good spot and waited. Aboard the Teresa, Ernesto and Julio waited too, as the minutes ticked by. If the pattern remained the same, it would be on top of us in a few minutes.
Viene Yulo.
Pues no estoy seguro.
I wondered what I would do about it if it was something out of the depths. But even if I had wanted to change my mind, it was too late now to get back to the boat. I felt a faraway vibration in the water, and I heard an eerie sound. Whatever it was on its way. I braced myself and set the camera. I figured that no matter what happened to me, I might still get a photograph. Perhaps something of tremendous scientific value.
Jefe! He comes! Even the whales are afraid!
The turbulence hit me like a pile of bricks. There was no fighting it. My body was tossed around like a feather. I was turned over and over. I knew that I wouldn't be able to get a picture, or even a look. I wondered if I lived to tell what had happened to me. I was underwater to get a look at Julio's sea monster. Instead, I was almost finished by the turbulence that it caused as it passed. And I had seen nothing. My watch told me that I had lost track of several minutes. I was lucky that I hadn't drowned. I was dazed and exhausted, but otherwise unharmed. As I surfaced, I looked around for some trace of the thing, but saw nothing.
What is it? What did you see?
Nothing. He came too fast. It was like being caught in a terrific underwater current. Oh, boy. Threw me around, knocked me over. I didn't even get a chance to take a picture of it. When I finally got up, it was gone. What about you? Did you see it?
Well, we each saw something different and really did not see anything. You were right, Mike. Its speed is fantastic. Nothing is sure. But the hydrophones picked it up from the beginning. After you rest, Mike, we'll play it back and start our analysis.
Okay.
Now, compare what you just heard with our tape recording of the sound coming from hydrophone number 5. The volume here is at least 3 dBs less.
That puts it even further to the left side of the channel.
That's right.
Right about in here, wouldn't you say? Never nearer than 20 feet from the surface.
It sounds to me like it could be some form of that fish which you call sculpin. They have that strange metallic hum and ring, too.
Look at the course this thing takes. Comes straight in from the sea to the spot we've been observing it. And it makes a perfect 90-degree turn. Every time in the same place. That's a smart sea monster. Every time I listen to this thing, I can't help but think that... you've got at least a half a dozen reinforced nets aboard, haven't you?
We have 8, Mike.
Well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to stretch all 8 of them in a row, one right behind the other, across the channel. Starting from this point. Right here.
So as to slow it up just long enough to get a real look at it, huh?
That's right. Maybe take a picture of it, too. And if I'm lucky, even disable it. At least it'll give us a chance to find out what we're up against.
We can keep it there for just a half a minute.
Well, what do you say? You willing to risk those nets of yours? I'm afraid it'll probably go through the first 3 or 4 of them, but I think the rest of them will hold it.
Yes, Mike. If you will agree this time to stay on board with us.
Until we have something in those nets, then I'll go down and take a picture of it, huh?
Okay.
Well, we have until 4:30 tomorrow. We got a lot of work to do. Let's start rigging those nets, huh?
We worked the rest of the day and all of the next, rigging the nets. We finished just in time. We were watching the meter, which measured overall vibrations. If a net was hit, the needle of the meter would jump. It was almost time. It hit the first net. The second. And the third. But the fourth had a different sound. It seemed as if the thing was hanging there. I knew that I might have only seconds in which to look at it. As I sped downward, I wondered what was waiting for me in the fourth net. There was a clean hole in the first net. I swam through it. Then through the second. through the third. And then I saw it. It looked like a mass of foaming bubbles. It wasn't any sea monster from out of the deep. It was a man-made monster, and one of the strangest devices that I had ever seen. At first, I could hardly believe that so small an object could have created such tremendous turbulence. But as I approached it, I understood better. Even with its power cut down by the damage it had suffered in the nets, it writhed, twisted, and strained like some live creature. I tried to find some way to put it out of action. I pulled on one of the antennae. It came off easily, and the pressure diminished slightly.
Something has happened. That sound is not as strong.
See?
Then I pulled off another, and the whole mechanism quieted down. I examined it carefully to see if I could discover what propelled it, and to satisfy myself that I had really disabled it.
There he is!
He's safe! He's safe! Call Naval Intelligence.
Now, for the time being, we have to request your strictest silence concerning this object. Later on, there may be an official announcement.
Yeah, we understand. You sure that's what this is?
Has every appearance of being an underwater satellite, built to orbit underwater in the same way that other satellites orbit in space.
But how can so small an object cause such a tremendous turbulence?
By its tremendous speed.
And I must get that speed by using the pressure of the water itself for propulsion.
Yes, I agree, senor.
That's pretty ingenious, huh?
You know that 90-degree turn you spoke of?
Huh?
Well, that's undoubtedly accomplished by the presence in here of an instrument which beams off these antennae and is set to automatically veer it away from any sizable solid object such as a coastline or a breakwater.
But what is it doing down here in our bahia?
Got a theory about that. I drew a straight line down the coast, past San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, down to this bay.
I see. This is the first point at which the coast of Mexico projects out far enough to make it turn.
That's right.
So you know that could explain some of those strange sonar alarms and signals we've been getting the last couple of days in our coastal defenses. Thing like that could cause a lot of confusion, and in the wrong hands, armed as a weapon, tremendous danger.
Have you any idea where it might have come from?
Well, there is no one country which has a monopoly on scientific research these days, Mr. Nelson. This could have been developed by any one of a dozen countries, large or small. But we'll know after we've examined it further, and we'll know what to do.
Hey, amigo, what are the burning eyes and the long wild hair?
Well, the eyes, they must have been these two light-sensitive discs. I don't know what that wild-flowing hair could be. Yeah, it must have just passed through a kelp bed. That's what you saw, was kelp on there.
Ah, see.
You know, I don't blame you for thinking that it was something from another world.
And who can say, with all that is happening today, he was so very far wrong?
I'll be back next week at the same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?
With tanks of compressed air strapped to his back, man has a newfound ability to penetrate the 4/5 of his world that consists of water. He does it for fun, for exploration, and for work. Dave Norfolk did it for work, for a career. He was an underwater maintenance man for 20 miles of submarine cable. Armed with a compact induction device, he checked his cable for wear and tear, for corrosion and decay. Then Dave Norfolk met his death on the job. Dave died at the hands of two other men who had learned to live underwater and to kill underwater. There were no scars, no wounds to testify to what happened. They simply turned off the valve that delivered air to Dave Norfolk and watched him drown helpless. Then they turned the valve back on, knowing that when and if his body were found, he'd be just another scuba diver who'd met with a mysterious accident. There'd be nothing to indicate homicide. I didn't know Dave Norfolk or his killers. I didn't know that I was soon to face those killers myself. I learned about Dave Norfolk's disappearance a few days later from a man named Victor Halstaff, who looked me up at work. Halstaff was an official of the company which maintained the cable and employed Norfolk.
Well, this man, the man that was drowned, was he just doing a purely routine job?
That's right. That's what makes it so hard for us to understand. He was just checking cable. Job he'd done before a dozen times.
Was all this cable underwater?
Yeah. Runs out from shore about 20 miles to Sea Rock Island. Services the Radford Chemical Corporation.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the plant from the water. That's the place that makes chemicals out of kelp and seawater, isn't it?
That's right. The plant covers the entire island, so they have this special cable. Of course, eventually, that'll be replaced for the radio telephone. But until it is, we're going to have to send men down there from time to time to check that line.
Well, that's a white sandy bottom out there. Visibility is very clear.
And still, an experienced man like Norfolk was drowned. Now, before we send any more men into there, we want the entire area checked by somebody who knows what it's all about. Underwater. We'd like you to be that man.
Well, I don't know exactly what you want me to look for.
Neither do we. We'd like you to look.
I took the assignment because I'm interested in anything that concerns underwater safety. My first approach was to retrace Dave Norfolk's route the day he disappeared. I found the cable on the bottom and started to follow it, observing everything within viewing range. Something there might be the clue to his disappearance. A giant bat ray was following the same course from the opposite direction. I stopped. It passed me by as I expected. I wondered if such an encounter might have frightened Dave Norfolk into panic. I couldn't know then that it was no native of the sea, but fellow human beings who had doomed him. Then a tiny piece of tape stirring in the current on the cable brought me to the beginning of an understanding of Norfolk's fate. It had been wrapped around the cable recently. Sea growth had been scraped away, leaving a bare spot in the insulation, and there were marks that looked as if they'd been made by a clamp. Someone had been tapping the cable at this point. Someone who didn't want to be discovered at it by Dave Norfolk. I surfaced immediately, found Halstaff, and went with him to the Radford chemical plant on Sea Rock Island. The president of the company might know who'd be interested in tapping his phone line. His credentials satisfy me, Mr. Halstaff. Besides, I know Mr. Nelson. Yes, Mr. Nelson, there is reason to tap our telephone cable, and a very important reason, too. It involves many, many millions of dollars and possibly lives. Then we may not be too far off. Is that right, Mr. Ludwig? Our company is conducting a very special research program on this island, developing a whole new group of chemicals, utilizing simple seawater. It has an enormous industrial importance and military importance. Until you walked into this room, we had every reason to believe that this was totally and completely top secret. When did you say this man died, the one who drowned?
Last Friday, sometime around 1 o'clock by our closest estimate.
Friday at 1? Then this is worse than I thought. How so? Each Friday at 1 o'clock, it's automatic. Our executives assemble for it. We make a special call to our home office in the East. In that call, we provide for a complete verbal report on the week's progress, including everything that we don't care to put down on paper. In the past 3 weeks, our Friday conversations have contained information that is, well, it's practically priceless. Has all of your important data been transmitted by now? No, there's more, including the breakdown analysis of our key seawater element. Well, they're undoubtedly aware of that. They'll be listening in again next Friday, you can be sure of that.
We have a device that could warn us the instant a tap has been attached to the cable.
Oh, that's great. Can you get it connected by Friday?
I think so.
We'll be there. We were there, Friday at 1 o'clock. Halstaff and I on my boat idling along above the cable. Ludwig and a technician in his office manning the detection equipment. We had a radio channel open between us, and a code worked out that we hoped wouldn't tip off anyone listening in. It's after 1 o'clock. You should have heard from him by now. Want to give him a buzz?
Okay. Dolphin, this is Angler.
Anything new? Over.
What'll I tell him?
Nothing.
Angler to Dolphin. We're underway, but we haven't sighted anything yet. Over.
Over and out.
We waited. When Halstaff and I received the word that a tap was on, I was prepared to follow the route of the cable till we found another boat drifting above it. That one should be the diver's boat, and we'd have them red-handed.
Better tell them to stand by.
Angler to Dolphin, we have a possible sighting. Over.
Standing by.
This is it. Hello, Dolphin. We have a positive sighting. A large school of tuna. Over.
Roger, over and out.
A large school of tuna. That was our code for a sure tap. We took off at full speed.
Got a boat in sight.
Full speed wasn't fast enough, for it soon became apparent there was no other boat to find. We searched the empty horizon in vain. We had the entire sea to ourselves. Whoever was tapping that cable below us had reached it some other way.
You see?
Not a thing.
Got a boat in sight. I can't figure it out. It was right about in here, and I found that tap on the cable. I think we're gonna take a look, huh?
Good idea.
Take over the wheel, will you?
This time, when I reached the spot where last the cable had been tapped, I found nobody. Nothing. The tapper or tappers were too smart to return to the same place. I wasn't able to find the divers who were tapping top-secret telephone communications along an underwater cable. They were men who would kill rather than be discovered. There was nothing to do but return to shore and plan our next move, even while the wiretap continued somewhere out of sight below us. To find them now on a 20-mile stretch of ocean bottom was just about hopeless.
Well, it's obvious. They're not using a boat to get to the cable.
But what are they using?
I don't know. But I do know that the next time we go out, Vic, you're going to have to pinpoint the exact spot along that cable where they're working.
Oh, wait a minute, that's pretty rough.
You've been able to tell me instantly when that tap has been applied. Now I gotta know where, so I can hit the water just above it. Think you can do that?
Well, maybe we could. With an electronic echo device. Measure the modulations of the impulses from the point of the tap. We need some special computing. That'll use up some pretty precious minutes before we can get your boat bouncing.
Well, next time, I won't be using my boat.
The next time, I was up in an Avalon Airlines amphibian, piloted by my friend Dick Talbot. Halstaff, Ludwig, and the technician monitored the detection equipment. A flash from them, and I could be landed anywhere along that 20-mile stretch in a matter of minutes.
Right about there. Hello, Dolphin. Positive sighting at coordinates 117523.
The computation may have been a little off, or Dick may have overshot his water landing, because when I found the cable, there were no divers in sight. But all I needed underwater was a couple of 100 yards between us, and I wouldn't be able to see them. I started following the cable, certain that they were nearby, and hoping that I was going in the right direction. There they were, listening in all right with a device that I'd never seen before, and recording the conversation on a tiny, waterproof wire recorder. There were two of them to one of me. I knew now that they were the killers. I had to take them by surprise. I was well hidden by the grass, but I was afraid that my bubbles would give me away. I breathed as little and as slowly as I could. Luckily, the sound of their bubbles covered the sound of mine. I cut the first man's air hose. That put him out of business fast and left me free to meet the second man on even terms. But the second diver didn't wait. He had more to gain by escaping than fighting it out down there with me. By the time I spotted him, he had an almost impossible head start on me. Still, knowing that Dick on the surface would take care of the first man when he came up for air, I went after his buddy. I lost him completely for a time, but his direction was generally back towards Sea Rock Island, so I kept swimming that way and desperately hoped for a glimpse of him. finally, there he was, racing into a water tunnel of some kind that led from the Radford plant. Now I knew how the divers had reached the cable without being discovered. They had come from the plant itself. The connecting shaft led straight up. There was light coming from above. This had to be the diver's route. The first thing that I was aware of when I came out of the water was the sound of turbines or generators nearby. That explained the water tunnel. I saw his tanks and diving equipment still dripping on the floor. He was out cold. He'd be out long enough for me to find a telephone and get Ludwig and the police down here. And once he and his buddy explained who they worked for and why, the Radford Company could go safely back to its top secret work. Sure that it was top secret.
Hi, I'm Lloyd Bridges, inviting you to join us for another action-packed story of underwater adventure 1 week from today.
For both. And I don't believe in facing them unnecessarily. For example, to find sunken treasure or mineral wealth. It's usually a fool's game that doesn't pay off. When there is a payoff, it sometimes does terrible things to the treasure hunters. There was a time when I wasn't so wise about it myself. Then I was searching for manganese ore, the source of a valuable metallic element vital to national defense. On the surface, my partner on this particular trip waited impatiently. He was Pete Otis, a geologist that I had met only a few weeks before. Manganese nodules aren't too easy to spot. They look a lot like ordinary rock. But Pete had told me just what to look for. In my concentration on the search, I had stayed down a bit too long. I noticed that my mind was beginning to slow down. Then I saw something that made me forget the manganese. The sharks were beginning to spiral in on me. I knew what that meant. I had a few minutes at most to get out of the water. In shark-infested waters, sharks are cool, calculating killers, but their mood can turn to frenzy in an instant. I was trying to surface slowly, and they were moving in on me. One of them came in for a strike. With a reflex action, I jabbed at him with my spear gun and shot the spear instinctively. At that close range, I went right through him. As he struggled, I knew that I'd have to escape before the others closed in.
See any signs of the stuff? Oh, you were down a long time.
Too long. I feel like somebody's been massaging me with a baseball bat.
You had to use your gun?
Oh, yeah. Shark.
Must have come pretty close this time, huh?
Yeah. Too close for comfort.
Mike, you sure you didn't see anything that looked like manganese ore down there?
Yeah. I'm sure.
I wish I knew how to dive.
Yeah. You and me both, friend.
Oh, I didn't mean that as a crack, Mike. It's just that, well, I'm a geologist and you're not. I recognized that first chunk of ore the minute I dredged it up in a coring device. Practically pure manganese. There's a fortune waiting for us down there, Mike. All you have to do is find it.
Well, maybe if you had a better idea where it was located, I could do that little thing.
Well, I thought I knew exactly where it was.
You didn't.
All right, so I couldn't dump it in your lap. I cut you in for a third of the proceeds, didn't I? Well, work for it.
That's all for today.
What? You mean to say you're going to waste the rest of the day?
Now, you listen to me, partner. Because I'm only going to say this once. I'm not going to wind up in any hospital. Not for you, nor for all the manganese from here to Cape Horn. I'll dive only when I feel that I'm in condition to dive. You understand that?
Sure, Mike, sure.
Okay.
Mike, anything you say goes, on or under the ocean.
Yeah, all right.
You take it easy. I'll whip up some chow.
I had a good night's sleep, and I felt a lot better the following day as we headed out to continue our search. The sea was calm. If anything, a little too calm. Pete Otis was once more the same polite fellow that I'd met in Costa Buena a few weeks before. The fellow who'd sold me on the deal by reminding me how important manganese is to our national defense. And I was again heading for deep bottom. All of a sudden, I was startled by a big octopus. It can be a frightening sight. Actually, he didn't want to bother me any more than I wanted to bother him. Another hazard of being deep below the surface is that a diver can't see what's going on above. I had no idea that a change was taking place in the weather.
Shelter. A violent storm containing winds of hurricane force is approaching Costa Buena. Warning to all... storm containing winds of hurricane force is approaching Costa Buena.
I realized that my air would soon be gone, that I would have to surface. Meanwhile, the sharks seemed to be getting more curious, so I began to watch them closely. I was so absorbed in watching them that I didn't realize that I was swimming above a giant clam. I struggled with all my might, but I couldn't free myself. I knew that if I couldn't get out, my air would soon be used up and I would drown. It seemed as if my foot was being crushed.
They're sending out a storm warning.
Yeah. We gotta get out of here.
But where can we go?
Pescador Landing. It's a sheltered cove there.
Pescador Landing? We can never make it that far, Mike.
We've got to. It's the closest harbor.
But, Mike, I don't want to...
Leave it to me, will you? Pull the hook.
The storm was heavy and mounting. I wondered if we'd have time to reach shelter. It was hard to keep the boat on course. But as soon as we had rounded the point of the island and reached the lee side, we were out of the worst part of the storm. We soon reached Pescador Landing.
Got a reception committee waiting for us. Pretty attractive one, too.
Have you seen my father.
He isn't here?
No! He went to Barranca yesterday. I pray he'll stay there until the storm is over. You did not see his boat?
Your father will be all right, Pepita. He's been a fisherman too long to be trapped out in weather like this. This is a friend of mine, Pepita, Mike Nelson.
Hello?
Hello, Pepita. This storm might break any minute. We better get out of here.
Yes, come up to the house where we'll be safe there.
Oh, no, we'll find a place all right.
Please, come.
Keeping secrets from me, huh, Pete?
Will there be something else?
No, thanks, Pepita. That was delicious.
It is nothing, senor. It was my pleasure.
Mike, let's get going.
Ah, you came home from Barranca through this storm.
What is a little thing like wind or rain to a man like me? Oh. So you finally came back, eh?
You're soaking wet. You must get into some dry clothes right away.
I have spent half of my life wet. Who's your friend, Pedro?
This is Mike Nelson, Senor Valdez.
Senor Valdez? Hey, your daughter's sure a wicked cook. We both want to thank you for your hospitality.
Por nada. Tell me, you are another one of these men who makes money out of rocks?
No, I'm a diver.
A diver, eh? Me? I am the greatest fisherman in the Pacific Ocean.
All of it?
All I have seen. Well, do you bring me good news after all this time? I give him a rock, a rare rock that I bring up with a net. You should see how excited he is. We are going to be rich, he says. And then, nada, I cannot even find it.
I thought you said you dredged it up with a coring device.
Now, don't jump to conclusions, Mike.
You know what my conclusion is. You lied to me. You lied to him, too.
Don't call me a liar.
Let go of me, Carl. This is my house. It is my fight.
Jumped to the conclusion and provoked Pete into slugging me. But I could see that even if I was right about Otis, to break up the deal would leave Esteban without anything for his discovery.
Shouldn't have done that, Mike.
No, why not?
I know I clipped you first. Just said things about me I wouldn't take from anyone.
Well, they were true, weren't they?
No. Look, I cut you in for a third of this. Half of my 2/3 share goes to Esteban.
Come on.
I never figured it any differently, and I still don't.
You sure kept it a secret.
Well, what's the sense in building up his hopes? We may never find the field. And even if we do, it may not be worth working. That's the truth.
What you say could be true, Pedro. All right. Let us try it. We are all together, let us work together. What do you say, Senor Nelson?
Okay, but call me Mike, amigo?
Okay. Mike.
And so when the storm subsided, the three of us set out for the place where Esteban recalled dredging up his rare stone. He had not marked it on any chart, but with the sixth sense of an experienced fisherman, he was able to find the spot. I trusted Esteban, but I had great reservations about our other partner, to put it mildly.
What this line is for? My safety line. Helps me up and down.
Ah.
I don't like it, Mike.
What? This is where you found the manganese?
I think so, but there are many sharks here.
Oh. Well, I can always tell when they're getting a little too curious.
You have been in the water with the sharks before?
Oh, yeah, lots of times. So far, no scars.
I wish I knew how this diving was done. Then I could get down and help you, give you some protection.
Muchas gracias.
But not all I do is talk.
There's something else you can do.
Eh?
Use that?
But of course. I shoot almost as good as I fish.
Good. Now, when I go in, and later on when I come up, if the sharks give me any trouble, you shoot them, huh?
With the greatest of pleasure.
Just be sure that you don't shoot me.
Amigo, don't say such a thing even as a joke.
Good luck. I wasn't sure that sharks were the only danger we had to face. And I had more than one reason to want Esteban to have the rifle.
Gives it to me like you give a toy to a baby.
What are you talking about?
This gun. He gives it to me so I will be occupied. Clearly, I can be of no help to him where he is now.
He doesn't need any help.
How can you know that? No, we were wrong, Pedro. It's not right that he should risk his life for our profit.
As I began the underwater search once again, I felt much more hopeful. With Esteban's guidance, we were much more likely to find what we were after. There were plenty of sharks in this area, too, but they were keeping their distance, and I didn't see any reason not to go ahead. This could be it. Pete was the only one of us who would know for sure. I wanted to get to the boat with the specimens as fast as I could.
Much more?
A whole reef down there, same kind of rock.
That's nothing compared to what could be hidden or out of sight. It's tremendous.
What do you say, Caballera? Make you happy?
Oh, see, my daughter, what this will mean to her.
There's still plenty to do. We've got to mark it well, and we have to file our claim.
Well, the position is marked in the chart.
That's not good enough. You've got to go down with the marker buoy and mark it well. Fasten it securely, dead center if possible.
Dead center it'll be. I didn't know what was happening above,
But I did know that I was the only one that could start the engines. I had quietly taken care of that because I didn't trust Otis. Were above me and the sharks were below me. The sharks sensed trouble, and they seemed to be gathering for a kill. In my desperation, I remembered an old frogman trick. I left Otis a target to shoot at. Bubbles of air from my diving lung. I took one last deep breath and swam for the other side of the boat. There were 2 injured men in the water, and the excited sharks were gathering fast. I took care of Esteban first. We headed for Costa Buena to complete the 2 jobs that we still had to do. Register our claim and turn our former partner over to the authorities.
Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of sea hunt.